Hello all. We are going to talk about art integrated learning today. And basically, since art integration is very popular now, national education policy laying a lot of emphasis on it. And I think each one of us, as belonging to the teacher fraternity, we would like to have art integrated learning into our classrooms as well. And so, very small uh, discussion on what is art integrated learning. And you know as we would like to take this up as a pedagogical tool into our classrooms. So basically, I teach critical thinking in Bachelor of Education program. And I always see that my student teachers, when they you know try and understand critical thinking processes, they at a point of time, because it is more of an intellectual work that they do in critical thinking classes, after a point of time, there is a little frustration within them that there is a lot of um, intellectual thinking going on, and there is a lot of mental muscles that are being flexed. So then there is a point where we think that how can we add a little joy to what we are doing into our regular classrooms of critical thinking. And so that's where I basically thought of integrating art, because I think that gives a lot of creative expression to the students to put their thought up with reference to critical thinking classes. And I think it will be helpful for all of us being into the field of teaching. And I think each one of us can incorporate this into our subjects in our own way. Of course, it's very contextual, and I think each teacher can understand and try and make this concept very relevant to their uh, content that they teach. So basically, a very small idea on what art integrated learning means. So um, conceptually looking at it, I think it is more of learning through art and with art. So art could be a process through which you learn basically. And so it is with you all the time. So you know I would say I would like to use the processes of critical thinking to make you know something, or there is something and I could teach critical thinking through that piece. So learning, it is basically when I'm talking about uh, using art to teach critical thinking. So basically using the concepts of critical thinking to make an art piece, or it is like um, uh, taking a piece and teaching critical thinking to it. So art integration is more of learning through art. Say you are doing something, and while in while you are making that piece, you know you are using those processes, or you know if you have something in front of you by which you are able to learn. So it's basically it is through art and with art. And so it becomes a medium of teaching basically. And as I said earlier, it's a pedagogical tool. So I think it should be used as a process to learn a concept in your subject. Why? Because then you are processing on the you are focusing on the process and not the product, right? Because when I'm saying that I want to integrate art in mathematics to teach angles, say a classical form of dance which is Bharatnatyam or Kathakali, and the postures that they do in that, and the postures may come out with certain angles. So am I teaching angles through that dance postures, right? So then that art, my dance form or that particular postures becomes a medium of teaching angles basically. And I think then that becomes very I would say very creative process. Not only that, it doesn't bring that pressure. And basically now we all are talking about creating that space where we are exerting lesser pressure, on the mind of the student and getting more output with reference to that by creating lesser pressure. So basically, art can be your teaching learning process, a medium of, teaching, or medium of, designing your instruction. And so it focuses more on process and not on product. Why art integrated learning? I mean, say, we just said that it creates lesser pressure. Not only that, I mean, when I'm using art to depict something, as a teacher, I become very creative when I do that. So I would be very curious to see what kind of angles will I be able to teach through, some dance form. And I would be researching a lot on that. Am I right? Because I would like to teach this angles with this very innovative dance, classical dance form. I also become very researching in nature. I also explore a lot. I become so curious to do that. Am I right? And then at the end of the day, if you're able to do that, it gives you a lot of sense of satisfaction, because you're able to do something that is going to help your students feel very relaxed, because you're not teaching angles per se, but you're teaching angles through something. Am I right? So I think it is something that helps you to, you know, it enhances your creativity um, aspect. Not only that, um, it also helps me imagine so many things. And I mean, when I'm talking about art integration, I would like to, see, like, even if I'm teaching, even if I'm sitting right now, I would like to see so many concepts in each of the thing around me. So it basically helps me to explore. It basically helps me to become more, observant about things around me. Right. And then it helps you to explore as a teacher. It helps you to observe and, right, things that are around me, say, the plants that are around me. Right. So if I'm able to help my student touch that particular plant, smell that particular plant, and probably, draw what he has seen, somewhere I'm engaging that senses of my student, and he's able to, become more observant, because, he has a leaf in his hand. He's able to see the colors, actually he's able to see the veins and arteries of that um, leaf, right? And so it becomes very creative process, and a very engaging process, and um, makes it very concrete, because the concepts that we teach might be very abstract, say, because, like, when I'm talking about critical thinking, it is more in your mind, and so it becomes very abstract sometimes for the students to absorb it. So if I'm able to ask my students that, you teach critical thinking through some painting that you have made. And so I think when you see that painting, and when you are able to see the processes in that painting, it becomes more concrete, it becomes more engaging, it becomes more joyful. um, and of course it engages your senses, right? And then it focuses on your head, heart, and hand, because you would be able to probably, do certain mudras and depict that, right? Or you are drawing and sketching, so you're using your hand, and so you're using your, body to get engaged into that learning. You're also using your cognitive processes, because unless you know how will I teach critical thinking through this art piece, is more of your cognitive processes that you will be using. And naturally your heart, because you get engaged into it, you have that sense of satisfaction within you. And it also looks into your sense of appreciation. As soon as you see an art form, you have that, oh, it's beautiful, it's nice to see this piece, that sense immediately gets activated. So it basically engages head, heart, and hand. And that NAP focuses on this idea very much, which is holistic learning. So that is why art integrated learning, you know, answering to that question over here becomes very important. Now, how is something that we can look at? So this is a very short video, and this only talks about, what and why and how of art integrated learning. And, we might have more videos on, basically looking at samples of integrating art. But here, how we would say that, there are two forms that are focused in art integration. One is the visual art, and the second one is performing arts. So, what will be included in visual art? So, it could be painting, it could be photography. So, we were doing a lot of, projects that talked about photo essays uh, that they would use to teach the concepts of economics. Now, if I'm able to integrate photos and photo essays in teaching economics, somewhere I'm using the visual art form to teach economics concepts, which are very abstract. So, right then, in that experience, some years back, my students used to go to, a very typical uh, downtown markets, and they used to pick pictures of people negotiating. The way uh, uh, the vegetables were, designed and put up in that showcase, so that, it attracts a lot of people looking at it. So, green apples, red apples, oranges. So they would know that, how people market their product. So I'm trying to teach marketing, I'm trying to teach negotiations, I'm trying to teach the concepts of market through what? Through photography, photo essays. So that becomes a visual art. You could also use clay modeling, you could use sculpture, you could use crafts uh, to teach concepts into your subject. And that is basically the visual art. So visual art includes painting, photography, clay modeling, sculpture, crafts. And then the second part is the performing arts, where artistic expressions are involved, right? Facial expressions are involved. So it could be a play that students, put up on some uh, good, um, you know, lesson that you might have in your English, right? So rather than you asking them to read that lesson and you explaining that lesson, they could have a play or drama that they could do in that particular concept. So that might, help them to engage into head, heart, and, you know, body, right? So it could be facial expressions. It could be a very nice form, that is storytelling form. So again, it engages a lot of senses while you hear a story, right? While you narrate a story to the students, and stories are something that I think even adults get engaged into. It could be music. I mean, at times there are students who teach, geography, concepts of geography through rapping in music. So it could be music, it could be drama, it could be puppetry. Again, a very old form of, people using in historical times to communicate a lot of, social issues, right? But then it could be used in our regular teaching learning process. It could be cinema, right? It could be a very nice documentary that students might design on the concept that you're teaching, right? So that's how, art integrated learning works, and it basically creates, kind of experiential learning scenario. Again, a very important concept in education right now, right? So basically, this video discussed on three very important ideas. That is, what is art integrated learning? So it is basically learning through art and with art. It focuses on process and not product, and that is why it is very important. And it basically helps you to become very creative, very researching, very observant, and again creates a scenario where holistic learning can be, thought of. and it could be through visual and performing arts as specified in the in the in the slide in front of you. Thank you, and I think we'll come with more videos on exact exemplars that might help us to integrate art into our regular teaching learning process. Thank you.